And again, welcome to this sad episode of YouTube where we're paying tribute to Malik, who was born May 8th, 2000, and we euthanized on Saturday, March 22nd, 2014. And I'll kind of show a little bit of his history in life, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what has occurred. But Malik was an Arctic subspecies and born the brother Shadow. Malik was named after Malik Sealy, a basketball player who perished in a car accident shortly before Malik was born. And so in the popular Name the Pup contest that the center sponsors, someone submitted Malik's name and went for a vote, and that was the vote that won. Malik and Shadow came to us from Nancy Gibson, one of our board members, who had bottle fed them at a young age. And at about 6 weeks of age, they came to join the educational facility here, and this was their first day in Ely. We wanted to make sure that they felt pretty comfortable in the exhibit, and Malik was kind of a special case for us. Malik was the only pup we've ever had who had swallowed a rock and wouldn't pass it, so we did have to use some subcutaneous fluids on him. So he was the only pup we've ever had, other than Luna, any real significant medical issues. Shadow Malik, when they came to us, this was the first time that we ever did a pup introduction to an existing pack of wolves, and we learned a lot from these two individuals. We learned, as you probably saw from that little clip, that maybe 6 weeks is a bit too late to meet the adult wolves. We also learned that adult wolves are incredibly tolerant and certainly are probably, as the literature shows, really dedicated to pups, even when they're not their own. And so what we see here is Lukas, who was the dominant pack leader of the 1993 litter, was when he was born, and he became the pack leader. He was the only male of that litter of four, showing a little bit of social behavior, but also a little bit of testing behavior. And that's Shadow doing all of the kind of lunging, aggressive, guarding behavior. Notice Malik on the left. He's pretty much protected by Shadow, and that really was Malik's life. Shadow was the pack leader. Shadow led most of the behaviors, and Shadow was really what Malik followed. Malik did integrate well with Lakota, Mackenzie, Lukas. It was the kind of the exhibit pack that they joined, and they had some firsts. They were about a year of age when we built the pond, and that is now looks quite a bit different if you come to the center. But when it was first made, it was kind of a concrete flow with some rocks around it. It's now really kind of grounding quite a bit. But Malik and Shadow were going on 2 years of age. Actually, they were had turned a year, and that was Malik there that hopped the pond. Malik didn't like water. He wasn't a swimmer like Shadow was. He liked to be involved but didn't want to get wet. So Malik had his little idiosyncrasies that we came to know and came to be able to manage. One thing we also learned from these two is that we had way too much of an age difference on the 1993 litter to the year 2000 litter. They were obviously 7 years apart. By the time the Arctics reached maturity at the age of 2, the older wolves were 9, and we have since then learned that that's too long of a time frame. 9 and 10-year-olds cannot and should not have to put up with 2-year-olds unless they happen to be their own. And so we learned a lot. After these two, Shadow and Malik's introduction, we did rotate or change the rotation of the pup introduction to a 4-year span versus a 7-year span, which we initially started. So what ended up happening is when Shadow Malik finally reached 2 years of age, in August of 2002, they were a little over 2, going on 2.5. They were the only members of the exhibit pack. They had aggressively and systematically tested and deposed all of the members of the 1993 litter. Started with Mackenzie first, who's the dark-colored female on the back. This is Lakota, the lowest ranking pack member here. She was already acknowledging their status, and like I said, by the fall of 2002, they lived alone. And so Malik has always been a unique. He's always been one of those very easy to identify for us. He does have more almond-shaped eyes on the right, and Shadow had more roundish eyes. Malik had a more delicate face. Definitely was one of those that had some unique features. He also was integral in the interactions and the introduction of the next set of pups, which was in 2004. That's Grizzer, Maya, and Nisa. You can see Shadow doing all the disciplining here, and Malik was kind of the follower, and that's pretty much how his life was here. So like I said, you can see the dominance that Shadow's doing. Those pups are submitting the way that they should, vocalizing to get your point across. Malik wasn't doing too much active vocalization nor too much dominance, and that later caused him a little bit of grief. By not being a little bit more assertive with the pups, he found himself kind of on the bottom of the rank order later on in life, and the leadership was pretty much Shadow. There was a moment on the right here where Malik did a little bit of testing and tried for some status, but that didn't last very long. Shadow had always been the member in charge. Malik had a unique sound to him, and that sound was the sound of threat display, was the sound of annoyance. Not certain how the best to describe it, but it certainly was one of those things where those of us who worked with him, remember that call, remember that chatter, we call it, that Malik chatter. So, like I said, I'll give you a little bit of details of what had happened. I may have mentioned in the logs early on that we knew that he wasn't feeling all that well. He was kind of hanging towards the back of the exhibit, but he was still eating, and he was eating only for select people, meaning that there were certain wolf care that he liked better and certain wolf care that he felt more comfortable with, and he would eat for. So that's always kind of an alarming sound. I mean, he was still eating and he still consumed food, but it was selective, and so that was our first kind of warning. And then we had lots of howling, and here's some clips of Malik howling and Grizzer responding, low-throated howls. And you can just kind of see in this video, he's a little bit unstable. Again, this started on Monday, which I believe was March 17th, when we really noticed this. So this was a fairly quick onset, but we just knew something wasn't right, but he was still eating and he was still moving around. But on Monday, we really started to see some of these howling bouts increase. The issue with a wolf nearly 14 years of age is that you have to weigh the risk of immobilization to be able to get blood work, to be able to get him to the vet clinic, versus just trying to observe. And one of the parameters that we used was he comfortable? Was he seeking shelter? Was he feeding? Was he interacting? And at that point, all the way through the week, those parameters were met. But by Wednesday, we were really starting to worry a little bit more about the stability issue. And we were looking through some reviews of his history, looking at some of his family history, and see if there was any correlation with anything related to cancers or spinal issues. And on Saturday morning, we discovered that he just was not able to maintain mobility. In addition to that, the sub-zero weather. made him very hypothermic. We felt the need to get more information, and so we did send Malik's body with one of the wolf care staff down to the University of Minnesota hospitals for a more complete necropsy, and to be able to get some more information, to be able to help us learn from this, to help us manage future situations, and to be able to get a sense of what happened. And so we expect those results to be in within the next couple of weeks. But we miss him. We know that there is a loss. We've experienced that before with our other wolves, and our focus right now is keeping Shadow, Grizzer, and the rest of the pack comfortable and interactive as possible. So again, sorry for the sad news, but thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.